Hallo meine Damen und Herren und willkommen to this next episode, The Ledger of Bones, A History in Blood. I may remind you of something very important. This is TikTok, which means this content is for entertainment purposes only. Obviously, clearly, natürlich. Any resemblance to historical figures living or dead is purely coincidental and also slightly profitable. If there are any inaccuracies, please forgive me. In times where the truth is negotiable, let's just say I'm working with what's available. The senior partner doesn't provide footnotes. So, take what serves you and leave what doesn't. Meine Lieben, before we open tonight's ledger, let me remind you of something I said a few footnotes ago. I told you about the Palestinian resistance. From the youngest to the oldest, I explained why they still resist while the rest of the world scrolls and forgets. Because they are not submerged in the chicken cage distractions. No TikTok, no discos, no shiny gadgets keeping them numb. Just the open-air prison and the memory of what was stolen. If you haven't watched that episode, go back and watch it. It will show you exactly where you are standing today. I also gave you homework. Yes, homework. And to my surprise, no one has handed it in yet. The question was simple. How many people have been unalived in the Palestinian crisis since Bibi has been in power? Well, the answer is more complex than anyone could imagine, because the numbers have been buried, spun, and buried again, and again, and again. So tonight, my Lieben, we are going to do the homework together. We will speak about what the Palestinians have endured, how long, and why. This will help us all understand why they have been unjustly accused of terrorism, until recently, when the world started noticing that the dog was wearing the wrong collar. And with that understanding, we can finally name the dog by his real name. Let us begin. Meine Lieben, tonight, no jokes, no giggles. Tonight, we read in the ledger. Let us start at the beginning, not Genesis, not Adam and Eve. Let us start when the world we know today began to take shape. (1917). The British Empire, tired and bleeding from the Great War, decided it wanted Palestine. They fought the Ottomans for it. 3 battles around Gaza and Beersheba. Thousands died. British, Ottoman, Arab. When the dust settled, 400 years of Ottoman rule ended, and a new landlord moved in. The British didn't come empty-handed. They came with promises. To the Arabs, they promised independence. To the Zionists, they promised a national home. The same land, promised twice. Very efficient. The numbers start small. 1920 Jaffa riots, 48 dead. 1929 Hebron and Safed, 133 Jews killed. 116 Arabs killed. Small numbers, manageable numbers, the kind you can forget. But then, 1936 to 1939, the Arab Revolt, 3 years of fighting against British rule and Jewish immigration. The British brought in 20,000 soldiers. They bombed villages from the air. They demolished homes. They detained thousands. The cost? British and Jewish forces lost 562 men. The Palestinians lost 5,000 fighters and another 5,000 civilians, 15,000 wounded. In just 3 years. And still the ships kept coming. Between 1932 and 1944, over 225,000 Jewish immigrants arrived in Palestine. Most fleeing Europe. Some fleeing nothing, just answering the call. By 1947, Palestine had 1.3 million Arabs and 608,000 Jews. The UN drew lines on a map. The Arabs said no, the Jews said yes. And then the bottom fell out. (1948), the year the world rewrote itself. Between December 1947 and July 1949. Something happened that Palestinians call the Nakba, the catastrophe. Historians call it many things. I call it efficient. Deir Yassin, April 9, a village of 600 people near Jerusalem. The Irgun and Lehi, my kind of people, if I'm being honest, attacked at dawn. By nightfall, between 100 or 120 men, women, and children were dead. Some thrown in a quarry, some shot in their homes. The survivors were paraded through Jerusalem, then expelled. The news spread like fire. If it could happen in Deir Yassin, it could happen anywhere. People fled, not because they wanted to, because they were afraid. Operation Cast Thy Bread. Yes, that's really what they called it. Biblical, poetic, poison. In April and May 1948, Zionist scientists, including a man who would later become president of Israel, put typhoid bacteria in the wells of Palestinian villages. Acre, Gaza, Bidu, Beit Masir, dozens of places. They called it biological warfare. The victims called it death by water. Acre, May 1948, typhoid epidemic sweeps the city. 90 cases among locals, 65 among British troops. The city falls to the Haganah 2 weeks later. Gaza, May 1948. 4 operatives disguised as Arabs try to poison the water supply. They are caught. Egypt executes them in August. But the plan was there. The intention was there. By the time the fighting ended, 750,000 Palestinians had fled or been expelled from their homes. 531 villages destroyed. wiped off the map, renamed in Hebrew. The Land Registry of Palestine rewritten in a single year. How many died? The numbers are slippery. Arif al-Arif, a Palestinian historian, counted 13,000 dead. Most of them civilians. Other estimates say 15,000. That's roughly 1% of the entire Arab population of Palestine at the time. Dead in 2 years. And the survivors? They became refugees in Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Gaza. In the West Bank, they live in camps to this day. Their grandchildren live in camps. Their great-grandchildren live in camps. Because the one thing the senior partner understands better than anyone is this. Once you displace a people, you never have to let them back. From 1949 to 1956, the Fedayeen, Palestinian fighters, crossed into Israel from Egypt and Jordan. Small attacks, harassment. They killed maybe 200-300 Israelis over 7 years. Israel's response? Raids. Massive raids. In 1953, Kibbutz, 42 civilians killed, 2/3 of them women and children. In 1955, Gaza, 38 Egyptian soldiers killed, plus civilians. Tit for tat. Blood for blood. 1967, the Six-Day War. Israel takes the West Bank, Gaza, East Jerusalem, the Golan Heights, Sinai. Another 300,000 Palestinians displaced, many for the second time. The refugee camps grow, the anger grows. 1970, Black September, Jordan fights the PLO, thousands dead, Palestinians killed by Arabs in an Arab country. The senior partner must have laughed. 1982, Lebanon War. Israel invades Lebanon to destroy the PLO. The death toll? Anywhere from 5,000 to 20,000, mostly civilians. Sabra and Shatila refugee camps. 800 to 3,500 killed by Lebanese Christian militias while the Israeli army watched and did nothing. History repeats because no one reads the minutes. (1987) First Intifada. The stones versus the tanks. Over 6 years, Israeli forces killed 1,000 Palestinians. Another 1,000 killed by other Palestinians, collaborators, suspected informants. The numbers blur when you're killing your own. 2000, Second Intifada. This one was bigger, deadlier. By the time it ended in 2005, 4,791 Palestinians had been killed by Israeli security forces. Another 714 killed by other Palestinians, plus 600 wounded. On the Israeli side, 1,000 dead. The ratio is always lopsided. That's how empires work. 2008-2009 Gaza War. 22 days, 1,417 Palestinians dead. Of those, the UN says 926 were civilians, including 313 children, 10 Israeli soldiers killed. In 2014 Gaza War. 50 days, 2,310 Palestinians dead. The UN says 1,462 were civilians, including 551 children. Israeli soldiers killed 66. Do you see the pattern yet? The ratio never changes. The names just get harder to pronounce. And now we come to the present, the account that isn't closed yet. October 7, 2023. Hamas attacks Israel. Kills 1,200 people, takes 250 hostages. A brutal day, a terrible day, the kind of day that makes headlines for weeks. But before we get to the response, the bombing, the invasion, the destruction, we must stop. We must look at what happened between the attack and the response. Because, meine Lieben, this is where the senior partner does his finest work. Sources say it was a false flag attack. Let me be clear, the attack really happened. Palestinians crossed the border, the uncrossable border, the most secure in the world, and captured Israelis. Took them hostage? That part is true. And here's where it gets interesting. The Israelis had shut down their own security system that morning. Deliberately? Negligently? The investigation is still open, but the timing is curious. And the Israeli army, they came only after the Palestinians were long gone, hours later, and that's when the massacre started. The Israeli army killed their own people. Yes, their own, under a directive called the Hannibal Protocol. The policy that says, better a dead soldier than a captured one. Better a dead civilian than a hostage. Haaretz, the Israeli newspaper, reported that on October 7th, Israeli forces opened fire on their own military bases, their own settlements, using heavy weapons from attack helicopters, drones, and tanks. Their goal? Eliminate Hamas fighters, even if it meant killing Israelis in the process. The Hannibal Directive turned southern Israel into, and I quote, an extermination zone. At 10:30 that morning, the Air Force began firing on anything that moved near the Gaza border. By the end of the day, how many of the 1,200 dead Israelis were killed by their own army? The investigation is still ongoing, but Haaretz suggests many. Until today, no one can explain how the most secure border in the world could be breached by Hamas, unless it was meant to be breached. Intelligence also leaked that a few weeks prior to the attack, the United States, of Israel of course, sent $18 million or so to Iran to finance the training of Hamas for the operation on October 7th. Yes, the Mossad's modus operandi is well known. They've been playing these games for decades. Train your enemy, fund your enemy, then cry victim when your enemy attacks. So the story does sound plausible, doesn't it? But let's be clear, the Palestinians did cross, they did capture hostages, they did kill people that day. That is not in dispute. What is in dispute is who else killed people that day and who let it happen. Because if you create the conditions for an attack, if you disable your own security, if you wait hours to respond, if you then bomb your own citizens under a secret protocol, then you are not the victim, you are the architect. And the Palestinians, they are the excuse. Now, let us talk about the response. As of January 2025, a peer-reviewed study in The Lancet estimated 75,000 violent deaths in Gaza in the first 15 months. Not counting natural deaths from disease, starvation, lack of medicine, another 16,000 on top of that. By March 2026, Senator Bernie Sanders stood on the floor of the US Senate and said the number had reached 70,000 killed. Not estimated, not claimed, said, in the Senate, out loud, the Gaza Health Ministry says over 72,000, but they also say thousands more are buried under rubble, uncounted, unremembered. Among the dead, 34,000 children, more than the entire number of civilians killed in all wars since 1945. In one small strip of land, in 2 years, and this doesn't count the 964 killed in the West Bank since October 2023, or the 60-plus civilians killed in Israeli strikes on Iran, or the 500-plus American soldiers killed in the first week of the Iran war. Do you want the total? The running tally since the British arrived? From 1920 to 2026, from the first riots to the latest bombings. The ledger shows approximately 150,000 to 200,000 Palestinians killed. Other sources say up to 400,000 since October 7th alone with the carpeting of Gaza. But here's the thing about numbers, meine Lieben. They're just numbers. You can put them in a ledger. You can read them on a screen. You can cite them in a Senate speech. But numbers don't scream. Numbers don't cry. Numbers don't dig through rubble looking for their children. The senior partner understands this. That's why he keeps such good accounts. Because when the bodies pile high enough, people stop counting. They just look away. Now you might ask, why? Why did this happen? Why does it keep happening? The answer is as old as empire. When the British came in 1917, they wanted a foothold in the Middle East. The Suez Canal, the oil routes, the warm water ports. When the Zionists came, they wanted a homeland, a refuge from European persecution. Understandable, sympathetic even. But here's the problem, meine Lieben. You can't build your home on someone else's without becoming a landlord. And landlords eventually become police, and police eventually become armies, and armies eventually do what armies do. The Palestinians were in the way. That's the whole story. They were in the way of the British Empire. Then in the way of the Zionist project, then in the way of regional stability, then in the way of peace deals, then in the way of pipelines and ports and military bases. They were always in the way, and people in the way throughout history get moved or removed. The only reason they haven't been erased completely is that they refuse to forget. As I told you before, while the rest of the world had discos and TV and TikTok, the Palestinians had an open-air prison. No distractions, just the memory of what they lost. That memory is the only thing standing between them and the void. So here we are, meine Lieben. The ledger records. The numbers are read, the names are too many to say. But if you take one thing from this episode, take this. History is not written by the victors. History is written by those who survived long enough to tell their version. The Palestinians have survived. Against all odds, against all logic, against all predictions, they have survived. Whether they will continue to survive, that depends on whether the rest of you can stop scrolling long enough to see them. Think about that the next time you watch a video of a child in Gaza and scroll past because it's too sad. The senior partner thanks you for your attention. The ledger will be updated next week. Prost, meine Lieben. May you never become a number in someone else's book. So, do you still think I started all this? Or was the plan elaborated long before I even knew what politics was? In fact, I was probably just part of the plan. We all are.